This is a GERE Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on GERE Network. Listen in.
Welcome, everybody, to Better Live Than Dead episode number 60.
6-0.
Wow, man, your delay is really bad right now, so hopefully that cuts it out.
Well, I was in the middle of lighting a cigar.
Never mind then. I guess we're fine with the delay. It's my fault. I apologize.
It's all good. I'm lighting up this nice Casa Magna Colorado Degator, the 6x60 cigar. It's one of my favorites on the market. This cigar is delicious.
We have made it to 60. That's madness to me. That's for sure.
That's huge. That is awesome.
We just keep working, man.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong at all. That's for sure. I want to say first off, welcome to the Better Live Than Dead podcast. As I said, for your listening pleasure, right now it is 12:01 a.m. on Friday, September 18th. Before we get too far into the podcast, I want to say happy birthday to my mom. It is her birthday today.
Happy birthday, Tina.
Or at least at the time of podcasting, it is her birthday. But love you, Mom. Happy birthday. But today, there's not a lot of sports news that has gone on in the past 4 or 5, 6 days since we last talked, Lewis. But football's happened. So the first thing I wanted to point out in my brain cells was that Major League Baseball, Troy Tulowitzki has a cracked scapula. He may not return this season, but the Blue Jays have been so good, and they have a 3.5 game lead as of recording time, as mentioned before, that it may not make much of a difference in terms of just his offense wasn't great, but the defense, was pretty good. Because Troy Tulowitzki is one of the best defenders in the league. So that may play out, but he may be back. Who knows? But that's certainly a blow for Toronto. I don't like we talked about last week. I don't suspect. I don't suspect anybody but Toronto to win the East.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's going to happen. I think Toronto's going to win that East. The Yankees need to pick themselves up a little bit because even though they're like 4 games up on the wild card, you don't want to lose that.
Dude, have you seen what's happened to Houston recently?
Yeah, man, they've collapsed too.
Texas has been playing red hot baseball just at the time that Houston fell apart, and they also managed to play each other at the same time when one was hot and one was cold. So Houston is fighting for a wild card spot at this point, which is madness because at one point in time I think they were like 10 games up in the West. But that's just it's crazy how much baseball can change overnight, really.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Texas has been playing out of their minds. The Mets have been playing out of their minds. Blue Jays have been playing awesome. All of it's out of nowhere, really.
So I don't want to, in terms of football, because I do want to transition over to football very quickly. I don't necessarily want to go over every single game because that's just, you've seen them, you've broken them down, you've read the tweets, you've read the Facebook posts, all that stuff. Everybody that, the armchair quarterback, the armchair GM, you've heard everybody talk about it. But there's a few things I do want to point out. For instance, a massive loss for the Baltimore Ravens defense. They lose linebacker Terrell Suggs for the entire season. What looked like a no big deal, just maybe he rolled his ankle. Turns out he tore his Achilles tendon, and this might be the end of his career. I mean, not just the end of the season, but the end of his career.
Yeah, that's big. That's huge.
It's a big loss for the Ravens, for their defense, for their locker room. I mean, I don't. It's early enough in the year where they may be able to overcome it, but when all
players though, like you may be able to overcome it, but he's one of those players that even if you could overcome that injury, you can't replace a Terrell Suggs.
Never. No, never. He's a special kind of football player, like a special kind of leader, a special kind of, like Ray Lewis was. You know, Ray Lewis was a terrible human. You know, we know that. But on a football field, he could motivate even the unmotivated. And that's kind of what Terrell Suggs does. And if someone can step in and take over his role slightly, they should be okay to kind of get through. But losing Terrell Suggs week 1 was a very big blow for the Baltimore Ravens' hopes for the entire season.
Yeah, that's definitely going to, that's going to put a damper on their season big time.
Speaking of losing a guy, a big name week 1, let's move over to the Dallas Cowboys New York Giants game. First off, one hell of a football game.
That was a good game.
Just absolutely like Giants running back Rashad Jennings came out this week and said that Eli Manning told him not to run the ball, threw him under the bus, apologized afterwards. But like, you watch that game and you just think to yourself, Tony Romo's been statistically one of the most clutch quarterbacks we've seen in a while. In terms of fourth quarter comebacks, all that stuff, he's been the number one on the leaderboard. So, you leave him enough time to come back, and he, like a doctor, surgically just tears that defense apart piece by piece by piece until they score, take the lead, win the game. But after the game, obviously, we find out that wide receiver Des Bryant will be out anywhere from, I think they said like 4 to 8 weeks, more like 6 to 8, but there was some 4, some 6, some 8. He has a broken bone in his foot. Now, speaking of guys like Terrell Suggs, Des Bryant, not a guy you can replace in your lineup, in your starting lineup, but you may be able to get a guy in, like they picked up, let me get the name here. They picked up Bryce Butler from Oakland. Now, obviously, you say who? That's the point. It's just a guy who will fill a role. But you may be able to figure something out and kind of push the load onto someone else for a little while. And okay, your responsibilities are going to increase, or you're going to change here, you're going to change there. This is how it's going to work until Des Bryant comes back. I mean, because it's not like this happened to a team that was fighting for a playoff spot. Like if the Dallas Cowboys do what the Dallas Cowboys are expected to do, they're going to go really far. I mean, losing Des Bryant is a very, very, very big detriment to the overall goal, but he'll be back later this year, hopefully, and be healthy. But for now, already 1 week into the season, your back's up against the wall. You have to prove yourself to the league. I feel like the Dallas Cowboys certainly can do that.
No, I believe they can also. I believe they have the weapons on the offense to be able to do that. And like you said, Tony Romo just picked the Giants apart in that last drive. But let's be honest, he actually did 2 drives in a row. The drive before that, he took them down the field in under a minute and a half, and they scored a touchdown. They let the Giants, unfortunately, get back and score, and then the Giants were able to go back down, and that's when that whole weird play happened. I just want to thank Eli Manning for throwing the ball out of bounds. I appreciate that. I'll send you a check. I don't care. Because that gave Dallas enough time and they did, man. They just picked that Giants defense apart. Scoring that touchdown with 30 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, I think when Eli got the ball back, he had like 15 or 20 seconds.
Yeah, I won that game. It was a really good, exciting game. If they can figure something out, Dallas could go far.
Well, absolutely. I just watched, thinking about that game, just my head starts to spin because, you think to yourself, okay, this game's over, but, they'll get a possession. They get the possession, and, it's just absolute madness. I mean,
there's a lot of Tony Romo detractors out there.
Well, absolutely.
It did take him a while to find his groove, but the last several seasons, I mean, he has the most fourth quarter comeback wins in the history of the NFL. I think that, with this one included, I think that was his 25th or 26th. That's just amazing.
He's certainly proven that he is one of the best in the league. I mean, that's just hands down, no doubt about it. Tony Romo is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I can't, I don't think you can understate that at all.
I agree with you.
But there's a lot of people that'll talk about how unclutch he is and how he's a terrible quarterback and all that stuff. But, look what he's doing in Dallas.
Right.
Another big loss for the Dallas Cowboys in that game. They lose defensive end rookie Randy Gregory for 4 to 6 weeks due to a high ankle sprain. Moving on now to Tennessee and Tampa Bay. Some fancy stats happened in this game. Tennessee Titan quarterback Marcus Mariota becomes the first quarterback ever to throw 4 touchdowns in the first half of his National Football League debut. He joins Fran Tarkenton as the only other rookie quarterback to throw 4 touchdowns in his first ever game. And then on the other side, Jameis Winston becomes the first quarterback to throw a pick 6 on his first career pass since Brett Favre did it in 1991 with the Atlanta Falcons.
That was one of those games where you don't really give either team much of a chance. You know they got to win, but you're not expecting it to be a high-powered, high-offense game. And the Tennessee Titans, man, they looked awesome. Mariota looked phenomenal.
If Marcus Mariota can even continue at half of that pace, I mean, I know we put Tennessee out of a playoff spot. All of us did, and it's only week 1. So obviously, it's like baseball. You can play really well, but then once the team gets tape on you, you have to adjust. So at some point in time, Mariota will probably struggle, and it's how he adjusts to the struggling that will prove how good of a football player he actually is. So,
I mean, you know what? I mean, he absolutely made Jameis Winston look like a rookie.
Well, I mean, Tampa Bay is a joke.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Tampa Bay is a joke.
So going forward, hopefully there won't be too much pressure on Mariota to continue that type of high-powered offense because he's a rookie. That was his first game, and he made it look easy. So
absolutely.
Hopefully when they start to struggle a little bit and teams adjust, they'll be able to adjust to that pressure. I think he's going to be better than Jameis Winston.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you on that one. I mean, it's just a better opportunity, a better offense, better system, all that stuff. I mean, it's just Marcus Mariota seems like he's in a place to succeed. Tennessee is on the upswing. I mean, like I said, we're not predicting. None of us predicted that it'd be great this year, but it takes time to build a team, to build a good team, and Tampa Bay just doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, which for Jameis Winston's not good. For that franchise, not good. For the fan base, not good. But, it seems like I said, Tennessee, may have gotten the better pick with Marcus Mariota. It's only 1 week. We'll continue to talk about it as the season goes on. But, for now, it's a damn good debut for him.
Yeah, it really was.
Speaking of Brett Favre, the Pro Football Hall of Fame announced the 2016 first bunch of nominees for the Hall of Fame, 108 people. In that group, first-time eligible quarterback Brett Favre, first-time eligible wide receiver Terrell Owens, I should say. Clinton Portis, Brian Westbrook, Mike Vrabel, Darren Sharper. Now, it's interesting because Brett Favre, hands down, first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Terrell Owens is interesting because there are a group of wide receivers before him that certainly belong in the Hall of Fame before he does. But, Owens was one of the greatest. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But again, it's like Andre Reed. For a long time, there was a backlog of wide receivers, and until someone breaks the dam, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Now, the interesting name on the list is Darren Sharper. The National Football League Pro Football Hall of Fame has said, off-the-field stuff we don't look at. We look at on-the-field stuff. And if you haven't paid attention, Darren Sharper currently in federal prison for drugging and raping a an excessive amount of women. I can't remember the exact number. I do apologize. But a large amount of women in different states. So he's in federal prison, and he's going to be there for, I think, 12 to 15 years after he pled down, which don't even get me started because that's a bunch of garbage. But, it's a legal system for you. But it'll be interesting to see because, on the field, like his NFL statistics, he was one of the greatest to ever play the game. Really? But does the National Football League want to say, look at, we don't consider off-field stuff? Because, if you look at off-field stuff, like flat out, if you look at off-field stuff, O.J. Simpson should have been taken out of the Hall of Fame years ago.
Right.
So, off-field stuff doesn't really matter. Or they're going to say, look, we know he's a really terrible guy. He's done some horrible, unexplainable things. But following the rules that we have set for years, he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Does that happen? I'm very, very, very intrigued to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, that'll be interesting because, like you said, he really was one of the greatest in his position when he was playing. So stat-wise, number-wise, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall. But, in today's day and age, there are so many people who take political correctness to such the nth level. I don't think the NFL could follow their rules in this instance and put them in the Hall of Fame because I think the backlash would be tremendous.
Oh, it would be. I don't necessarily know if it's political correctness or it's just doing the right thing. The rules are the rules. You said it. You stated it before. It's been there for years. You followed it numerous times, but it would just. Look at today look at Thursday for instance. Patrick Kane was, as we talked about before, he was accused, not charged yet, but accused of sexually assaulting a woman. And the Blackhawks came out today and said, we're going to fight this. He's going to fight through it. Patrick Kane flat out said, I'm innocent. The facts will prove that I'm innocent. But, it's the backlash against the league and against the team was major backlash against every party involved. Now, you look at the National Football League, again, it's apples to oranges, but if you put a guy like Darren Sharper in the Hall of Fame knowing what he has done and knowing what he was doing while he was still a professional football player, can you with a clear conscience say, yeah, this guy is who we want to represent what we believe in? Because obviously the Pro Football Hall of Fame, any pro Hall of Fame is nothing to shake a stick at. There's prestige with it. There's a tradition to uphold with that Hall of Fame that you are in. So, you like with baseball, why is Pete Rose not in? Why are a guy like Shoeless Joe Jackson not in? Because they cannot or never will able to be they will never be able to uphold the prestige that Hall of Fame puts forward. So a guy like Darren Sharper, I understand, like I said, the stats are there. We can talk about this more as it approaches, because obviously, there's, as it goes on further, they eliminate more and more people. You get down to a specific number. Then around the Super Bowl, I think the day before the Super Bowl, they announced the class. So we're going to talk about this a lot more as time goes on. But right now, I just don't see, you call it political correctness. I call it just doing the right thing. I don't necessarily think that even with and you've seen people already talk about it. Writers say, he's one of the best. Stats don't lie, but you just feel dirty doing it. You just feel disgusting, and you don't,
No.
Some people might say I've seen some people say it's a spit in the face to the people that he has taken advantage of and assaulted, which I certainly I'm not against that, but it's a very interesting topic. For sure.
Yeah, I feel disgusted by his acts. No one should do that. But at the same time, his on-field, it was incredible, So it's kind of like walking a tightrope, which you mean too far one way, you'll have bad consequences. You're too far the other way, you'll have bad consequences. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. If you're gonna sit there and
Here's the difference. Like you mentioned, Patrick Kane, and Patrick Kane has obviously been accused of something, not been charged. And in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty.
But here's the thing. First off, here's the thing that really chaps my ass about it. Okay, he sits there with the balls to say to the media, "Look it, guys. When the facts come out, I'm going to be exonerated. I'm going to be proven not guilty." But here's the thing about it. We all know, it's been reported through multiple media outlets that they're working on a settlement. And I know, Perez, you're pretty smart guys, so you know this, but I'll tell our listeners in case they don't know. When a settlement happens, whatever you're settling on cannot legally be discussed. So if Kane's sitting here right now saying, guys, look it, it's a bad situation. I understand. I put myself in a bad spot. I'm going to be exonerated when the facts come out, but then they agree to a settlement. The facts will never come out. So he'll sit there and say, well, look it, the facts never came out, so you can't tell me I did anything wrong. Although I did, pay a couple $1 million to this unfortunate, to this lady for the unfortunate circumstances that may have happened. I'm totally innocent. Like, that to me is a bunch of crap. Like, come on.
Not to me. You know what? If you want something to go away, throw money at it. And the fact of the matter is this: and we've seen this time and time again in professional sports, if someone's willing to take the money, there's a very good possibility that that's what they wanted in the first place.
So you're telling me right now that, because again, if you look at the scenario, the woman right now has already been trashed. Like, nobody even knows who she is. They have yet to release that information, but she's already been torn apart through multiple media outlets, been talked down to, been, like I said, pretty much destroyed in the media, trashed, just completely trashed. But obviously, she knows what happened. Patrick Kane knows what happened. The lawyers, the attorneys, all that crap, whatever. They know what happened. I mean, he's provided DNA. There was a rape kit that was done, all that stuff. And again, the details are murky, so we only know as much as we know. But to me, if Patrick Kane was to say, look at, here's, a couple $1 million, that to me is some sort of, again, he'll never be found guilty of anything, but that to me is him admitting some fault for something happened. Something happened. Here's money. I don't want to ruin my reputation, because I'm sure he doesn't give a damn about the girl. Whereas if they go to court, the girl's identity will be revealed. She'll be destroyed. Her life will never be the same. I'm sure already it's pretty screwed up. That's another thing too. That's why I'm, you look at the settlement and you assume, okay, look at, I'm not of the mindset. I'm not of the, I think, and I think your generalization of saying that women know what they're getting themselves into and they know that the guy's famous so they can get money, I think that's a load of crap, to be completely honest. I think that's a horrible thing.
Not. We've seen it time and time again.
I don't care if we've seen it time and time again. Every situation is different. Like,
yeah, and if I say to you, listen, here's the deal. We had sex. I did not force myself upon you. What do you want? For your reputation not to be destroyed? Because I tell you what, if this goes to court and he's proven innocent, her reputation is going to be worse off than it is now. And then Patrick Kane can then turn around and counter-sue her for slander. What are you going to do? Yeah, I'll take the money. It's cool. No problem.
So you're telling me that if the evidence, if the evidence,
Kobe Bryant. Go ahead.
That's apples to oranges, man. Like, seriously, that's the one thing that I cannot stand about the entire rape culture of professional athletes. Like, if you can't sit here and say, well, this is what happened with Kobe Bryant, or this is what's happening with Patrick Kane. Every scenario is different. Every scenario is different.
Listen, the girl who accused Kobe Bryant told her friends when he showed up at the hotel, I'm going to have sex with him. Let's look at the Duke lacrosse team. They were accused of rape. Several people got kicked off the team. The lady came out a couple of months later and said it never happened. There are
And now do you understand? Now do you now with the examples you're providing to me? Now do you understand why situations like this are going to be taken care of in a court, and a settlement will be drawn up, and nobody will say anything because it's a really bad scenario for everybody involved. Because I'm sure Patrick Kane doesn't want to be sitting around having people calling him a rapist. I'm sure the girl doesn't want to sit around having people calling her a gold digger. I'm sure that the Blackhawks don't want one of their star players being, involved in this, or the National Hockey League. I'm sure every person involved does not want to be involved in this scenario. Things happen. Every scenario is different. So sitting here saying that this happened with that guy, that happened with that guy, so they all have to be equal. Like, yes, there are some absolutely terrible people out there that will go specifically targeting people for monetary gain or some sort of personal gain. I understand that. But to sit there and say that every single scenario is like that is just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I didn't say every single scenario is like that. I said there are multiple scenarios like that. I never said every single scenario is like that. Don't get my words twisted. All I'm saying is, this says to me, is that if the girl's willing to take money that quick, then there's a very good chance it didn't happen.
I'm of the thought process that the girl wants to take money because she doesn't want her life ruined. Because no one cares. Like with sports, and Lewis, you know this just as well as I do.
Yeah,
talking
her life's going to be ruined either way.
To bring your point to the table with Kobe Bryant. How many people today care that Kobe Bryant was accused of rape?
Not very many.
Exactly. So in 10, 15 years down the road, when Patrick Kane's headed to the Hockey Hall of Fame, do you think they're going to say Patrick Kane, one of the greatest American players to ever play hockey, who was also once accused of rape? They're not going to talk about that. But if this girl comes to the surface and says, "Look, I'm Lady X, Patrick Kane raped me," for the rest of her life, it does not matter what she does. She will always be that lady that accused Patrick Kane of rape or was raped by Patrick Kane if it was ever proven to be absolutely true. It doesn't matter what she does.
If it's proven to be true, then Patrick Kane's a disgusting human being.
I think he's a disgusting human being no matter what, because he continuously puts himself in these scenarios where he's at the point of his life where he's already had trouble in Buffalo with the cab incident where he assaulted a cab driver and pled out so he didn't get in any trouble, and now he's got this. He has the wild lifestyle mantra that follows him around wherever he goes, and you can check the internet. There's hundreds of photos of him just being a wild person enjoying his life. Which, I mean, if you're a professional hockey player, you might as well. If you're winning the Stanley Cup, every couple of years, you might as well. But when you allegedly force yourself onto people because of whom you are, that is disgraceful. And I think the whole scenario is horrible. And I think the Blackhawks are, frankly, piles of garbage for openly coming out today saying, hey, we're looking past this. We're going to become a better team because of it. All that garbage. And the National Hockey League too, for just flat out saying, hey, we stand behind him. Like, really?
You know what?
Really?
Here's the deal. I'm going to tell you a story. And I'm going to tell you a story that not very many people know. So now you're going to know it.
Everybody's going to know it now.
Donna Dawn's going to know it. Everyone who listens to this podcast is going to know it. Here's why I am very adamant about you are innocent until proven guilty. When I was 24 years old, okay, I was in full-time ministry living in Buffalo, New York. I'm from Rochester, for people who don't know where we are. Ministry group that I was a part of, we traveled all over the place. Came home for Christmas vacation. On my second day home from Christmas vacation, 2 detectives show up at my house, okay? They come in my house, sit down at my dinner table. They tell me that I, Louis G. Perez, am being accused of rape by a girl that I had not seen in probably 8 years. So we had to do a little investigation, obviously. My schedule, fortunately, with the ministry, we had a very definitive schedule. So where I was at certain times was very clear, very well known. The dates that she said that and that's the thing. It wasn't like on this day. It was like on this possible week, okay? The dates that she gave the cops, I was in Connecticut. It was very well documented that I was in Connecticut. I had thousands of witnesses that I was in Connecticut, including the people I lived with. Thank the good Lord that I was in Connecticut during that time, because who knows what would have happened. I would have been proven innocent because I gave my DNA immediately. I was like, you want me to go piss in a cup? You want to take a cotton swab to my mouth? I'll give you my DNA right now. Because I would never, ever violate a female like that. Ever. I am against people who do that. But I was proven innocent because there was no bloody blue way in hell I could have did that. Okay?
I understand.
So the girl then turns around and accuses one of the detectives of trying to rape her. So I don't know what was going on with her and her family at that time, but obviously some messed up things were going on because she then turned around and accused the detective. So when I see a situation like this where people are saying, oh yes, they were out together, she was grabbing his junk, she was trying to keep people away from him so she could take him home, and they go home together, once they get behind closed doors, I don't know what happens. When she's willing to take money, my guess is maybe it wasn't rape. That's all
that information you just reported, by the way, was all alleged from people who are friends of Patrick Kane, just to keep people that are listening up to
and the
date.
bar owner, he said the same.
Yeah, who's also a friend of Patrick Kane. Like I understand your story, man. I know, I get it. That's pretty messed up story. Like I was not expecting you to go that route. Because
I'm just saying, like,
usually your stories are not of that nature.
Right. No, they're not, because I've had some very interesting things happen to me, and when it comes to that type of stuff, I don't tell a lot of people because they don't need to know. But that's why I have such strong feelings.
The problem with professional sports,
I was innocent.
The problem with professional sports.
But if I had millions of dollars, and if I had been famous, who knows how that would have went?
The problem with professional sports is that too many uneducated people try to say, well, he's guilty until he's innocent until proven guilty, and it's just an absolute joke.
Not a joke. You are innocent until proven guilty in this country.
The National Hockey League has a rule in their book that says you can suspend a player for as long as you necessarily find, as long as you feel is necessary, I should say, as long as they are. I can't remember the exact word. I should have looked it up before I started talking about it. I do apologize, but essentially, if you're making a bad name for the National Hockey League or making the National Hockey League look bad, you can be suspended for however long you want to. And as we know in the National Football League, you can pretty much make up whatever you want to. So the fact that not only have the Blackhawks not done anything about it and not said, look, we're going to take a step back, don't come to training camp. The fact the National Hockey League has done absolutely nothing about it, like I said, it's just absolutely despicable.
Maybe the National Hockey League knows something that no one else knows.
It's interesting, too.
It's interesting.
It's interesting that you point that out, too, because it's currently a grand jury investigation. So there was speculation that the president of the Blackhawks may actually be called in to testify before the grand jury, because you're not supposed to talk about the contents of a grand jury while it's currently happening. So it would be interesting to me if the National Hockey League knew exactly what was going on when no one's supposed to be talking about it, when no information is supposed to leak out. So there's a lot of stuff going on that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Or maybe it's because they know the actual facts.
I understand your point of view. I understand.
If you want to suspend the guy, right? Suspend him and follow your policies. But when you learn the facts, if he's innocent, let him play immediately. If he's not innocent, increase the suspension and fine him all types of money and send him to jail.
I just think that at this point, I mean, it's a black eye for the league. It's not going to go away anytime soon, because it's like we've seen with the National Football League for the past year and a half. Everything that you do is a precedent that you set. And today, on Thursday, a very, very, very ugly and bad precedent was set. The fact that, like I said, you've got a guy sitting there saying, I'm innocent, and clearly there's something there, because, I mean, he's had to provide his DNA, which is usual. The woman had a rape kit that was taken care of. Multiple witnesses have been called in front of the grand jury to testify. I mean, he's stayed out of the spotlight. He hasn't spoken a word besides from today. I mean, it's just something to me just doesn't look right, doesn't smell right, whatever you want to say, however you want to put it. It just doesn't, something didn't feel right.
And that's the difference between you and I. Like, you think something's not sitting right. To me, it says, well, they must know stuff we don't.
Well, they do know stuff we don't know. I mean, that's the fact.
Right. And to me, he's innocent until proven guilty. I'm not going to be like he's immediately guilty, because
I'm not saying he's guilty either. I'm just saying that there's enough evidence that's been leaked out, and there's just you do the math in your head, and something, like I said, just when you look at the grand scheme of things and you add it all up, you go, okay, we're missing something, and what is that thing we're missing, and why does this not make any sense? And I'm just very open-minded, and I'm not going to sit there and accept, like, hey, we don't know the facts, so let's just say he's not guilty. Like, I'm interested to figure out why. I want to know more. I want to push for the truth. I want to try to ask questions and push the boundary.
Right, but I submit to you that you're not as open-minded as you think, because you're kind of shitting on this dude, and we don't know the actual facts.
And I get, like I said, we probably won't know. We probably will never know the facts, because, like I said, within the next, I'm assuming, week or two, we'll probably get reports of a settlement, which means he doesn't talk about it, she doesn't talk about it. We never find out who she is.
And frankly, that might be best scenario for
that's
her.
the burden. I guess that's the burden of being a professional athlete, is you can screw up, allegedly or actually, whatever may have actually taken place. Like I said, we'll never probably know, but you can screw up or allegedly screw up and throw money at it, and you're fine, because the unfortunate part about it is everybody knows who Patrick Kane is. Not a lot of people know who this girl is, and again, like I said before, it can turn out to be pretty ugly for her, because not only is there Buffalo, but there's Chicago Blackhawks fans, there's hockey fans, there's terrible people all over this world that will just harass her and all that stuff, and just make her life miserable for no reason, aside from the fact that something happened.
Let's say there is a settlement, right? And I would imagine that they would have to share something of the settlement with the team. And now, if we see like the team suspend him after the settlement, then maybe we know what happened. You know what I'm saying?
If we were going to see a suspension from the Blackhawks, we would have seen it by now. Like they would have came out today and said, look at this as a distraction. We don't want you to come to camp. Stay away. Just keep doing what you're doing. Get ready for the season, all that stuff. But today they woke up with open arms and they said, hey, come back to the team. We want to take care of you. We're behind you. We believe in you. And it's just, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I'm just not a fan of the look that it puts out there. Like, it's just how professional franchises have acted recently, and it's just not good, I guess. I just don't think it's very good. Because at the end of the day, like I said on Twitter earlier, and like anybody else will tell you, if he was a fourth line center, guy who gets 5 goals a season, maybe he would have been on a rocket to Mars months ago. They would have kicked him. They would have kicked him out of the league. The Blackhawks would have cut him. No one would have touched him with a 10-foot pole. But unfortunately, again, you get yourself in this scenario where you look who it is, the notoriety he has, and you start to see people deal with him a little differently. And it's just like I said, it's an interesting look into the legal system and how the legal system works with professional athletes or people with money, and it just makes you scratch your head and wonder a little, I guess.
I can understand that.
It's just like I said, we as usual talk more about it as it comes up. That's what the podcast is for. We talk about what we want to talk about. Like, that was unscheduled. We just talked about it for 20 minutes. So that's why we podcast.
Right.
Now I want to move over to football, because that was kind of the point of being here today. Last week in the 2016 GERE, I think I hashtagged it GERE Pick'em on a Tweetbots. The GERE Pick'em, sponsored by FanDuel. Myself and Lewis, we both went 11-5. John went 9-7. I just want to point this out. I successfully picked the Buffalo Bills beating the Colts. Just going to put that out there. I was feeling very confident. I'll tell you what, everything that I said I thought was going to be an X factor was, so that was pretty cool. I always like it. The vindication is always nice. Lewis, you and I picked Denver over Baltimore. And then you picked Atlanta over Philadelphia, which was an interesting game because Atlanta dominated out of the gate, and then Philadelphia was just nowhere to be found, and then Philly came back, but it was too little too late. I'm interested to see how that one works out for Philadelphia this year with just with Sam Bradford at quarterback, with what they're doing, because I'm not necessarily sure if they just had a bad game or if Atlanta's really good, because Atlanta came out and they looked very, very good. But we know how Atlanta looked last year, and again, every season's different. Things change, whatever. But I'm very intrigued by the Atlanta Falcons because that division they're in is not very good. They win 9 games, they could win the division. 8 or 9 games, they could win the division. So it'll be very interesting to see how Atlanta comes back. I know this week they're playing the Giants, who are coming off a tough loss. Just for conversation's sake, we all have Atlanta winning and going to 2-0. After thinking about how devastating of a loss that one, the game against the Cowboys was for the Giants, I'm not necessarily sure, but I'm gonna stick with my guns on this one and go Atlanta. But absolutely, I mean, it's why would you pick against them? But looking at what we have for this week, first off, Thursday Night Football. We waited until the game was over to take the air. What an absolutely just ridiculous game. First off, it started off where both sides were just, there was nothing there. They were just back and forth, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Then, we had a couple turnovers that led to touchdowns. And the Broncos made a game of it as the game went on. The crazy part about it, fourth quarter, Kansas City scores late. Okay, whatever, Kansas City's probably going to win. Then Peyton comes back and not even surgically, but meticulously, just like, okay, they're not going away. They're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. Okay. And then they score. Tie game. Whatever.
Yeah, but you know what? You got to you can't give it to Peyton too much because they were 3rd and 10, like 30 yards out, and then Kansas City got a stupid holding call against them that gave Denver another 5 yards and an automatic first down. And that kind of sparked new life into Denver, and they were able to get that touchdown. And it was a beautiful throw by Peyton. I'll give him that.
Well, the interesting thing I saw about Peyton
really
too tonight was that he has a lot of wobble on his passes these days.
Yeah. Well, he came out, I think, about a month ago and said he can't feel his fingertips anymore. You know.
You know, that's all part of the next year. Ask my mom all about it, dude. She sometimes can't feel her hands. I mean, there's just some days where they're good, some days where they're bad. I'm worried about Denver. You know, I picked them to win the West, but I think I did. But Denver has not looked good the first 2 weeks. Like, they've won both their games, but they have not looked good. And usually, as we've seen,
they won both games on a defensive touchdown.
A defensive touchdown late, absolutely. And you look at it, and we know sports, Lewis. Like, I'm not sitting here tugging on ourselves here, but we know sports well enough that when you win games that you're not supposed to win, somewhere down the road, you're going to lose games that you weren't supposed to lose.
Right, exactly.
So at some point in time, there will come a game where Denver's up, 20 to 7 or 28 to 10, and they end up losing it because something goes wrong and they just the ball just rolls directly downhill. Now maybe we're wrong. Maybe that Denver's defense stepping up and taking over games is what really shows them to be a true contender. But just the way that Peyton Manning has played, that offensive line has been garbage for the first 2 games. Maybe they get it together, like I said. But right now, I'm very nervous about the Denver Broncos.
I think the Denver Broncos have a reverse situation of what the Pittsburgh Steelers have. I don't think the Denver Broncos are going to be very explosive in their offense, even with Peyton Manning. But their defense is going to carry them. So if they can get a lead, I think their defense is good enough to help them maintain a lead. While conversely, the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to score a whole bunch of points. Their defense is horrid. And they're not going to be able to score more points than the other team. They're not going to be able to hold it.
Just and just to point out, to put it out there for record keeping purposes, John and me picked Denver, and Lewis picked Kansas City. There's a lot of time left in the season to go, so don't feel too bad if you're behind a game already in week 2. I forgot what week it was already.
I don't feel bad. We went 11-5 last week.
By the way, is it just me, or has football so far been painfully boring?
You know what? There's been some boring games. Like the majority of the games were boring, but then you get a game like Dallas Cowboys versus Giants. You get a game like tonight. I mean,
the Cowboys and Giants it was kind of meh the whole game, and then as it got to the end, you're like, okay, now business is picking up. Or like with the Bills game, you could tell when the intensity was there, and then like in the third quarter, it was just 3 and out. The Colts go on a 12-minute drive, 3 and out, and it's like this is
I like defensive games like that.
Okay.
I like a game when it's like 3-0, like that. That's an awesome game because that shows
like the game a couple years ago in Cleveland when the Bills lost like 9-6.
Right. That's yeah, but like
I'm being a smartass.
Both those teams kind of suck though.
Remember that game when they played in Cleveland and they couldn't keep the uprights straight because it was so windy and snowy outside?
Yeah.
That was wonderful. Just going through the rest of the week.
Man, I might have to change my opinion of the Bills, man. They looked awesome against the Colts.
I'm not going to get ahead of myself because, it's 1 week. It's just 1 week. But we all have Buffalo this week against New England. And I think there's a very good chance that it could get ugly. I mean, like 31, Bills are up by 20 or something like that.
that ugly.
Well, I don't know. It might. You have to understand the defense. They're home again, and last week the crowd, everybody, the players, Rex Ryan said the fans played a factor in that game, and I'm expecting it to be rowdier and louder this week because it's Tom Brady, it's a defending champion, it's the New England Patriots, division rivals. And there's a point to prove. Like, we're for real. If we're going to prove to these guys, if we're going to prove to the league we're for real, we have to beat the New England Patriots. That's what all the players are saying. And a lot of the players have come out this week and said, we don't like the Patriots. What do you expect? We hate them. We're not a fan of them. I don't know if – I know LaShawn McCoy is probably going to be at a pitch count because his hamstring's acting up. They said, the more he gets, the better he feels. But the more he gets, obviously, the more his hamstring is going to – the more he gets, the more he feels like in rhythm, but the more he gets, his hamstring is probably going to be a little fired up. I know the running back coach today on Thursday came out and said we may have run him a little too much last week. But in the heat of the moment, if you have to take a couple practice days off to go out and run 25 times on Sunday, whatever. But I'm interested to see what happens with Sammy Watkins, who essentially was a decoy last week, which it worked out perfectly. But because the
Euro fantasy football points. Thanks, Sammy.
It's unfortunate. Sometimes you have to. It's for the greater good, Lewis. If Sammy gets no catches and the Bills win, cool. Because that's exactly what he said after the game. He goes, you know what? I didn't catch a ball that game, but we won. I did my job. I think the Bills are. I'm intrigued. I'm not. I'm obviously a diehard Bills fan, but if I was buying and selling Bills stock right now, I would sit on the stock that I have. Maybe buy a little more just in case, but I'm not going crazy buying stuff right now. I'm just I'm gonna sit where I am. I know the team is a 9 or 10 win team at this point. If they can rattle off a couple games that they're, like we said before, games you're not supposed to win. If they can win a couple of those, I might say, hey, this thing is for real. But right now I'm still cautiously optimistic as being a Bills fan for the past 16 years, just very, very cautiously optimistic.
I don't see a blowout happening in this game, but I see it being like 30-27.
I don't know if it gets that far because the Bills' defense has been dominant. I mean, they were great last week, and they get Marcel Darius back this week, which he's one of the best in the game. So they may struggle. The Patriots may struggle offensively if the Buffalo Bills can get consistent pressure on Tom Brady and shut the run down like they have been for a while now. It may be a game where the Bills score 20 points, but the Patriots only score 10. We'll get back to that. We will get back to that one next week.
I don't think that's giving Tom Brady enough credit.
I'm giving him as much credit as the Bills defense will allow. I mean, they're one of the best, if not the best, in the league right now. And after seeing how they got under Andrew Luck's skin, I'm very interested to see how they return the favor, or how they bring it back this week for Tom Brady and put a ton of pressure on him and see what he does. I mean, he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest ever to play the game. But like I said, it's a statement game. If you want to be proven as legit, go out and beat the Patriots.
Right.
Or beat the Colts and the Patriots, Andrew Luck and Tom Brady in back-to-back weeks, and then say, okay, we're for real. I mean, again, 2 weeks into the season, you can only go so far, but with this Bills team right now, to me, it seems like they have confidence in barrels, and if they can get something behind them to continue to further the confidence, watch out.
I'll tell you what, man, I like that Tyrod Taylor.
He's, serviceable. Like, I wasn't surprised by his line. I think he threw the ball like 19 or 20 times, had 195 yards or something like that, and a touchdown. Did his job.
Awesome.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Right on the money.
Looking at the other predictions, Houston, me and Lewis have Houston over Carolina. John has Carolina over Houston. Houston going to Ryan Mallett this week over Brian Hoyer after a bad showing last week. Bill O'Brien said this offseason and on Hard Knocks, if you're able to catch on HBO, he won't, just because player A is the starting quarterback doesn't mean player B won't get the hook sooner than later. And he waited, he hit 3/4 through the game. He had Mallett in and then said this week, I'm starting Ryan Mallett, no doubt about it. Me and John have San Diego and Lewis, you have Cincinnati. I could really see this game going either way. I know Detroit kind of dominated the Chargers early last week, and then San Diego turned it up and then took that game over. I know the record in the East Coast of West Coast teams traveling is not good, but I just, this San Diego team was good last year. I don't think the record was, the record did not adequately show how good of a football team that they were. And a year older, a year wiser, a year better, a year more talented. They've got a little more talent on the offense with Melvin Gordon, guys like Melvin Gordon, Stevie Johnson. I mean, they're without Antonio Gates, but, give it a couple more weeks, he'll be back. I think that, they could definitely put Cincinnati on the ropes, and we know how Cincinnati plays, They get on a roll, they're good, then, you get them on the ropes, like I said, and you can take over.
Yeah, this game was kind of a toss-up for me. I just decided to go with Cincy because of the whole West Coast traveling to East Coast thing.
That's fair. I'm continuing down the list here, just making sure we didn't miss any. Lewis, you and me have Pittsburgh, and John has San Francisco. We saw how San Francisco performed against Minnesota, but I just don't know if, especially traveling, again, West traveling East, I'm not sure how I feel about taking San Fran. I don't even know if San Fran's that good.
And let's be honest, San Fran won last week, but they didn't win in a very convincing fashion. I'll say Colin Kaepernick looked pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
but once again, we're talking about a very weak defense. And we have two weak defenses playing against each other. I can see this game being a shootout offensively. And I hate to use a terrible cliche, but, the team that scores the most points is going to win. And in this case, I think it's going to be Pittsburgh. I think Ben Roethlisberger has a little more weapons on his side, so he'll be able to pull it out.
I think that the Steelers are going to be very happy when Le'Veon Bell returns. I mean, that goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyways because it's my damn podcast and I'll say what I want. But
I'll be very happy when Le'Veon Bell returns.
Well, yeah.
Football team.
But I don't know. I struggle to think that Pittsburgh could start the season off 0-2. Like, that's the problem I have sometimes when picking these games is, I think to myself, there's no way this team can be blank and blank or start off whatever or have a losing streak of this many games in a row because they're just too good of a football team. And that's a lot of what I thought here was Pittsburgh's too good of a football team. Defensively, they're terrible. Offensively, though, they're too good offensively to lose. I feel lose to a team like San Francisco. Like, I think last week, San Francisco highlighted a weakness in Teddy Bridgewater's game and exploited it multiple times, put him in a bad spot, and then Carlos Hyde took over.
Right.
So, like I said, I think Pittsburgh over San Fran. In the last game...
Pittsburgh's defensive line, not bad. It's their secondary. Their secondary is horrible. I think the defensive line will be able to stop Colin a little more, and I think that's going to be the big difference.
The last game of the week that we disagree on, Green Bay and Seattle, or Seattle in Green Bay, I should say. John and Lewis, you both have Green Bay. I have Seattle. Again, it's another scenario there where I think to myself, first off, Seattle's good. I mean, there's, whenever they play St. Louis, and I said this to a bunch of people on the weekend after St. Louis beat Seattle. I was on the fence about picking St. Louis just because every time, almost it feels like every time that the Rams play the Seahawks, the Rams play them hard. Doesn't matter the Rams' record. It doesn't matter how bad of a football team they are. They always seem to play the Seahawks hard. And we saw that. And obviously the Rams beat the Seahawks last week. But I just don't see how, coming off that loss for the Seahawks, that they could go to Green Bay and be embarrassed 2 weeks in a row. I mean, it could happen. Anything can happen. It's, the crazier things have happened in life. But I just feel like a re-energized and a refocused Seahawks team will go into Lambeau, take down the Packers, and show the league, hey, don't don't throw dirt on us yet. We're not dead. We're just because we had a bad week coming off a season where we didn't win the Super Bowl. Don't call it in yet. Give us some time. We'll show you what we can do. And like I said on the preview episode, until proven otherwise, Seattle's the team to beat.
Yeah, I still think they're going to have a very good record this year. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop Aaron Rodgers passing all over.
We did see last week that the absence of Cam Chancellor in the secondary was very, very big for the Seahawks.
Right, and I think that's going to be an issue. So
that's fair. That's fair. Hey, that's fair.
Start the season 0-2.
As mentioned again, myself and Lewis tied at 11-5 after 1 week. John is at 9-7. Obviously, we mentioned that the game happened tonight, but we're not counting that in this week's podcast because, well, that's week 2 is not over. But it's 1:01 Eastern time on Friday the 18th, and we've been going at it for just about an hour now. No commercials, no commercial interruptions this week, just a straight-through podcast. I figured it felt right, It almost seems like when we're on the phone, we should just talk straight through. When we're on in person, we do commercials, we do more formal podcasts. So maybe that's how we'll adopt it from here on out. But just moving on now to a kind of closing up the podcast. We may have the opportunity for about 5 weeks to do the podcast in person during the week on like a weeknight. Because I've accepted a position at a new job starting October 19th. I did get the job. I wanted to wait till I got to the podcast to tell you. Thank you. I you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to disclose it on the air because I feel like this is a very professional, legit gig, and I'm going to treat it as such. So, unlike my hotel job now where I tell everybody I hate my job where I work and tell everybody where I work because I don't care, I'm going to try to ride the wave out for a while and just and see how it feels. But it'll give me the opportunity to podcast, like I said, for 5 weeks during the week, and then once I get my work schedule, actually we can figure something out. But football's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So we'll keep on churning these podcasts out. I mean, like I said, we may take a week off. Like I know this week, for instance, if this was week 10 in the National Football League, I probably would have just thrown up a quick 15-minute podcast on like the website or something because like there have not been many weeks where we have been struggling for content, and this week we were struggling for content.
Yeah, but I think we did all right with struggling for content.
I think we did okay. We usually figure it out, but excuse me. Coming into this podcast tonight, I didn't have the hiccups, but now I do. I had, I think, 7 or 8 things typed in my phone. That is not normal. So it was, it was another good week. Episode 60. Crazy.
Hey, man, speaking of Buffalo real quick, I'm going to throw this out there real quick. Off of sport. Did you hear that they put together the top 10 cities with the most Ashley Madison accounts in America? As everyone knows, the website that helps people cheat on their spouse was recently hacked. That information was leaked online.
Which, don't forget, too, they did say, sorry to cut you off, Luz, but they did say most of the women on that website were like robots.
Well, yeah, maybe. Buffalo, New York was number 10.
Congratulations, you slimy bastards.
No doubt. For real. Number 10. Good job, Buffalo. There was 3 cities in New York that made the top 10 list. Schenectady was number 2. New York was number 3. Buffalo was number 10. Your favorite city, Boston, Massachusetts, was number 1. Good job, guys.
I'm just reading some wrestling news right now, and I just got very, very intrigued by a rumor that I read. 2 rumors that I read, actually.
Okay.
There's, I don't know if you saw the Rolling Stone article with Sting where he essentially admitted to being a paid talent enhancer, But there's some talk that he may win the WWE title, World Heavyweight Championship, on Sunday to set up a Hell in the Cell match where Seth Rollins would win it back from Sting. But obviously, I don't know how much you follow wrestling, but there's the Wyatt family versus the Shield, Ambrose and Roman Reigns. They need a third member. There's rumors going around that Chris Jericho may be the third member, and I would mark the hell out for that.
I think a lot of people would.
Because there was original rumors that it was going to be Eric Rowan, which would have been, fart in a can. But Chris Jericho would be pretty cool for sure, especially because it all ties in because Jericho and fucking what's his name, Wyatt. They had the feud a while back.
Right.
I'm sure I'm gonna get yelled at for dropping an F-bomb there, but whatever. I'll figure it out.
I also said shit. I just said it again.
Sue me.
But
tweet at me and tell me how much you hate me. At Wolf
right.
BLTD.
That would be Chris Jericho would be a good addition. I think it would be pretty cool if Sting got the title because
he's going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. We know that.
It's the only, it's one of the major titles he's never held. So that would be pretty cool.
I think it would be meaningless, but it would be pretty cool.
Right.
I mean, a lot of what Sting has done since he got to the Fed is meaningless because the wrestling storylines are dog poo these days. But looking back on it, you'll say, hey, Sting won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Plus, he speaks highly of Seth Rollins, and he's not the only one that says Seth Rollins is certainly going to be the future of the Fed, and that's not just a storyline. That's legit. This guy can wrestle. This guy can tell a story, all that stuff. It's just they're stuck in a stupid storyline right now. So, yeah. Professional wrestling.
I think if you want to really just solidify Sting's impact in the world of professional wrestling, you got to let him hold the title at least once, even if it's for a month.
It would be so damn cool. So damn cool to see it happen. Well, hey, if it happens, we'll talk about it next week. I want to say thank you, Lewis, for joining me on a Thursday night, Friday morning.
Absolutely.
Making time and I'm assuming getting, as you mentioned, getting a cigar smoking session in. So it all works out for you. It's a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
Again, I want to say happy birthday to Mom.
Happy birthday.
I'm sure I'll see you later today at some point in time on Friday. I want to say thank you to each and every single one of you who tune in to the podcast each and every single week for making the thing happen, making the world go round in the BLTD podcast land. Check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/BLTD podcast. Check out BLTDsports.com. You can follow me on Twitter at WolfBLTD. Follow BLTD on Twitter at BLTD Sports. I've said that so much in the past 30 seconds it feels weird. Follow Lewis on Twitter at MRLG Perez and also on Instagram as well. With that being said,
I just want to throw this out there real quick. We are one step closer to get Beyond the Smoke up and going. I'm just waiting for your brother to send me the proofs.
You're saying just for those, because you cut out really bad, just for those who missed it, Beyond the Smoke is closer than ever.
Yes.
Closer than ever.
I'm just waiting for your brother to send me the graphics that he designed for me, that we can get that going.
That'll be a lot of fun. We'll keep you posted on that one as well.
Absolutely.
Also, thank you, John and Dawn. Check out Get Ready America, GearNetwork.com. Also, John and Brandon's Fantasy Football Podcast. Check that out as well. I'm sorry I don't have the name. I should have wrote it down, but I'm a jackass, and I didn't do that. So, John, I do apologize. And Brandon, I do apologize as well. But with that being said, we are better live than dead.
Or not.
Episode 60 in the books. Signed, sealed. At the time you listen, it'll be delivered, but right now, as we're recording, almost delivered. It's all yours. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you same time, same place next week, my friends. Here, exclusively on the Gear Radio